All right. Hello, Sir Oliver. Welcome to today's episode where we're diving into the world of genetically modified foods, specifically looking at cucumis mello, or as most of us know it, the humble melon. When we think of food security, we often think of like staple crops like rice or wheat, but melons, with a little genetic help, are stepping up as an innovative part of the solution. So today we'll dive into the science of why and how melons are modified, how these changes can improve food stability, and the health and economic impacts of GMO melons. We'll also take a look at what the public thinks about this shift in agriculture and what it means for the future of our food. So yeah, let's explore how this humble fruit might be a surprising part of a more secure and resilient food system. So yeah, first, so what exactly is it?
So what is exactly is a cucumbus melon? Um, Basically, it's a melon type that includes several popular fruits that we often eat. It's
Mm.
in the same family as pumpkin, cucumbers, and other varieties of melons. It has been cultivated through thousands of years, especially in
Oh,
ancient regions like Egypt and um, Persia. There's a lot more, but then let's move on to that. And I believe it's Jill, you have anything to add on to yours?
Now, and now moving on to what are like the health benefits for this cucumis melon. Well, a really interesting fact I found out about them about this fruit, it actually can provide essential nutrients such as potassium, in addition to rich source of beta carotene and vitamin C. And an interesting fact about this is that it also contains vitamins, which are antioxidant in nature, which can be readily absorbed into the skin and produce an anti-aging effect. This can also protect and cure the damaged skin, either as a result of aging or nutritional deficiency or environmental stress. It can actually also reduce the appearance of visible signs of aging for the persons if they consume the fruit.
Oh, thank you, Jill. Tim, JT, you have anything to add on to that?
yeah. So specifically, like how exactly is it genetically modified, right? So
Yeah.
there are several methods. One is through this like transgenic technology, which is like used to add like a foreign gene from another organism into the DNA of the fruit that didn't originally carry it. So scientists would first determine what trait they want to add to the melon, which could be like resistance to diseases, improve shelf life, or any other modification of like its size, even its flavor.
Yeah.
Recent advances also use CRISPR. It's another technique to modify specific genes within the melon without introducing a foreign gene. So this might involve
Uh,
like tweaking the gene related to fruit ripening or uh, disease susceptibility. Some modifications also use RNA interference to quote unquote silence certain genes, which can delay ripening or prevent the expression of genes that attract pests. So
mm,
those three. So one adds a foreign gene, another one just tweaks what's already within the DNA, and
uh,
then another one just silences the gene already. Like crazy.
yeah. So like one is basically eugenics and the other one's plastic surgery.
Pretty much. Wow, I didn't think of it that
The
Not
joke,
literally, not
the
just
joke.
literally,
plastic surgery. Oh
not
my God,
literally,
yeah.
but hypothetically.
Oh my
Okay.
God. But yeah, wait, thank you for that, bro. Uh,
Yeah.
Genetically modifying the melon offers several advantages over traditional breeding methods, and these include precision, speed, resilience, and the ability to introduce entirely new traits, which are like crucial for meeting food security demands, especially in regions with challenging growing conditions. And with climate change, we're seeing more extreme weather, hotter temperatures, less water, and saltier soils in some places.
Yeah.
Melons that can handle these conditions are a game changer because they don't need as much water or perfect weather to grow well, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Stress-tolerant melons can thrive in places where farming conditions aren't ideal. That means they can be grown in areas hit hard by climate change, giving people a reliable food source. And this stability is important because it can make a huge difference for communities struggling with food insecurity. Uh,
Mm.
Disease resistance, again, is important
Yeah.
because it can destroy entire crops, these diseases. And for farmers who don't have easy access to pesticides, this is a major problem.
Hmm.
Uh, by adding resistance to common melon diseases like powdery mildew, these plants can stay healthy even when conditions are ripe for outbreaks. Resistant melons mean fewer crops lost to infections, which can boost food availability. Plus, when farmers don't have to spend as much on chemicals to keep the crops healthy, it keeps their costs down, and that can make melons more affordable for everyone.
Yeah.
And this kind of stability, again, which is especially useful in areas where diseases spread fast due to humid or tropical climates, like in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And then lastly, extending shelf life is important because melons spoil quickly, which lead to a lot of food waste, especially in places where cold storage isn't always available. By extending their shelf life, these melons can survive their journey from farm to market, even when that journey takes a while.
Yeah.
So a lot less food is wasted along the way, and people in
Yeah.
more remote areas can access fresh melons too.
Mm.
Plus, it makes it easier for farmers to sell their crops without worrying about quick spoilage, which can keep prices more stable and affordable, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
In short, these genetic tweaks make melons tougher, fresher, easier to grow in places where food insecurity is an issue, like a big issue. It's just revolving around this stable, affordable, and accessible food source,
Yeah.
especially in regions where people can't always count on a steady supply of fresh produce.
Which is a good segment to the next question, the last one, be how does the public perspective view the GMOs, right?
Mm,
So on melon specifically, right? There's always been a consumer resistance to uh GMOs because people think is automatically a horrible um thing, I guess. But
mm,
because they want non-GMOs, and probably when we were kids, I guess you guys can relate to this. Like, your mom or your dad says, don't buy foods that are GMOs, get non-GMOs, right?
right.
Right. So what are the general what I found out is the general perception of this is very how would you say, depends on where you live. That's again depends on where you live,
Mm,
right? But in general, health concerns are usually one of the major reasons. Health concerns, like in people think again, it's a bad thing, but not really. I mean, any consumption of any food, vitamins, or or some sort of nutrients like protein and other things like that is always been bad for the body in high dosage.
mm,
Um, so and then people would say, oh, the impact in the environment, it includes more harmer chemicals um into the soil and reduces biodiversities. Some people support the belief that GMO crops can be better for the environment by reducing the pesticides that we use that I believe you
mm,
previously stated.
yeah,
So it's actually in some cases it's actually better for the environment because, as you said, it would not be so susceptible to these diseases for the plants. In turn, farmers would not have to use so much chemicals, like actual chemicals, for the
yeah,
melons. which makes it actually a little bit safer, or even much safer compared to the non-GMO ones. Then lastly, let's go into like the misinformation about it.
Mm,
With our perception of a lot of these things are mostly like misinformation from the media, like saying,
okay.
"Oh, it's not healthy, it's not good for you." The lack of understanding about GM technology, as you said, leads to fear and skepticism. But
Mm,
I mean, when you actually look into this, like we did, like we three of us went looking for the information, it's not as bad as you would think. It does more
mm,
good than it does harm, right?
right, right, yeah.
Right, right. And then I want to touch on the fact, because you also mentioned like regions and stuff, that
Mm,
again, how your examples were like more developed nations, and which is very true actually, because the studies are like in North America, which is obviously more better well off, as you all
mm,
know. They have more of a general openness to GM foods, because not only that they have a better understanding of the how it's being created and the technology incorporating into it. Um, but also because it's so much cheaper for them, and the consumers prefer, but it's cheaper for them, but the consumers still prefer non-GMOs and organic options. So wealthier nations think that it's good in some cases, but bad in other cases. Like it's very cheap, but then also they want like the freshness. And this holds true in
mm,
like Europe, which, I mean, let's face it, everybody in Europe, they're kind of snobbish,
mm,
especially some of the European regions. Very, I don't want to offend the whole continent of Europe, honestly. But yeah, they prefer more organic produce and tradition, and they prefer traditional ways of farming, and the organic plants instead of these GMO stuffs, right?
right, yeah.
So yeah, because we knew about that. They have strict laws, and they won't let certain chemicals come in, even certain foods won't come in, or they also have ratings that would identify the the harmful effects of the product. So like if it's like 1 to 5, being 1 is being good, and then 5 is being like super unhealthy for you.
Mm,
And you also touched on Asia, of that, and I just want to include the Asians and the Latin Americans, because funny enough, these are the wild cards. It's a mixed reaction, which is kind of interesting because um, you know, Latin America and Asia, it's very like contrasting, because you have some parts of Asia where it's more like a first world country or first world nation, and then you have same thing with Latin America, whereas you said Southeast Asia is they need the food security, because it's our we are severely hit by the um, climate changes, and farmers are having a
mm,
difficult time in
right.
creating producing new crops, right? The it's a mixed bag on like sometimes. So some nations see it as a good thing, and some see it as a bad thing. Usually, you can see a trend like the more that a nation is growing and the more that a nation is more aware, they have a tendency to not really particularly like that. But that's because they have food security, as you said, compared to other nations that
Mm,
need the food security. So they're working on what they have.
yeah.
So
So yeah,
they
genetically modified foods are complex, blending all this science, all these ethics, public trust. And as we move forward, it's
yeah.
clear that understanding both the benefits and concerns surrounding GMOs will be key to harnessing their full potential for sustainable and secure food future. So yeah, but yeah, if you
Yeah.
enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe for more insights into how science and innovation are changing the world of food and agriculture. Until next time.
Okay, guys.